The transport ship slowed as it entered the orbit of the station. The huge structure floated above a red and broken planet, shining with the glow of hundreds of lights. It was here that the Council had called a special meeting. The most powerful alien nations were waiting. They wanted to know more about the humans. Stories had been spreading through the galaxy, stories that confused and frightened many. How could this young species survive things that killed others so easily? How could they stand in battle when no one else could? Today the Council wanted answers. Inside the human ship, the air was quiet. Men and women sat in their seats, not speaking much. They were not afraid, but each of them knew they would be watched and judged. They were here to represent Earth, not just as soldiers or explorers, but as proof of what their kind could endure. At the front, Claire sat still, her eyes sharp, her back straight. She wore a simple uniform with no signs of rank, but anyone looking at her knew she carried herself like a leader. Next to her sat Daniel, silent, his large hands resting calmly on his knees. Around them, the others kept their focus. No one joked, no one laughed. They all understood the weight of this day. Through the wide window, the alien station grew larger. It was made of black metal with towers that looked like spines rising into space. Strange lights glowed from its sides, pulsing slowly as if alive. The humans had seen alien ships before, but this station was something else. It was older, built by many hands, each alien race adding its own design. For the humans, it was just another place they were not welcome in. They had been invited, but everyone knew that was only because the Council wanted to look deeper into what humanity was. The docking clamps locked onto the ship, and the hiss of pressure filled the chamber. A voice came over the speaker, cold and official, telling them to step out. Claire stood first. Her boots made a dull sound on the metal floor as she walked toward the door. Behind her, the rest of the humans followed, their movements steady and controlled. They were not soldiers in battle, but they carried themselves as if every step mattered. The door opened, and a group of tall, pale aliens stood waiting. Their thin frames looked fragile, their eyes bright and full of disdain. One raised a hand, pointing down the long hallway. Without words, they made it clear the humans were to follow. Claire gave a small nod, and the group moved forward together. The hallway was lit with a strange blue light. Symbols ran along the walls, glowing softly. Alien guards walked beside them, some carrying long weapons. They never spoke, only watched with curiosity and suspicion. The humans kept walking, their pace calm, their faces unreadable. Inside, some of them felt the weight of being surrounded by so many who did not want them there, but none of them showed it. They had learned long ago that silence and strength were better than nervous words. Finally, they reached a great chamber. The doors opened wide, revealing rows of alien leaders seated in high chairs that circled the room. Each one represented a world, a race, a history older than Earth's. Their skins, scales, and feathers shimmered in the chamber's light. Some had 4 eyes, others had none. Some were massive, like living stone, while others were delicate, like floating plants. But every one of them stared at the humans with the same expression, cold curiosity. At the center of the chamber stood the truth scanners. They were tall machines with glowing arches, built to read the history carved into flesh and bone. The aliens trusted them more than words, more than any promise or oath. To step into the scanner was to reveal everything about yourself. Every sickness, every wound, every trace of survival or failure. It was not a request. It was the law of the Council. The head counselor, a creature with silver skin and eyes like burning coal, leaned forward. His voice echoed through the chamber, smooth and heavy. He welcomed the humans with false courtesy, then told them why they had been summoned. Too many reports had reached the Council of Humans surviving where no one else could. Too many stories of humans living through poison worlds, frozen moons, and endless wars. The Council wanted the truth, and the scanners would give it. Claire did not reply right away. She stood tall, meeting the burning eyes of the counselor without fear. The chamber waited in silence. Then, with a calm voice, she said that the humans would obey. They had nothing to hide. Her words were simple, but her tone carried strength. It was not defiance, but it was not submission either. The aliens shifted in their seats, their unease growing. Daniel was called first. He stepped forward without hesitation, standing beneath the glowing arch. The machine hummed to life, casting light over his body. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the air filled with shimmering shapes, a record of his life projected for all to see. Bones broken and healed again, lungs burned by smoke, flesh scarred by blades and fire. The chamber fell silent. The aliens leaned forward, their disbelief clear. By their measure, this man should not be alive. Yet there he stood, calm, steady, breathing as if none of it mattered. The head counselor's face darkened. His voice was sharp as he demanded an explanation. Daniel did not answer. He simply stepped back, his eyes steady, as if daring them to understand. Claire then walked forward, ready to stand in the arch herself. Every alien eye followed her. Some looked with fear, others with anger, but all of them wanted to know, what would the scanner show about this woman? This human who stood without trembling in a chamber full of enemies. The hum of the machine rose again, filling the room with a sound that made even the strongest alien uneasy. Claire raised her chin slightly, her expression calm and sure. For the council, this was only the beginning. For the humans, it was just another test, and they had passed many tests before. The chamber was heavy with silence after Daniel stepped back from the scanner. The glowing shapes of his wounds and healed bones still floated in the minds of every alien who had seen them. They were not just looking at scars. They were looking at the history of pain and survival that no other race had ever endured. The council members whispered to one another, their voices low and uneasy. Yet the humans stood together in silence, showing no sign of pride or fear. They had been through worse than whispers. The silver-skinned counselor turned his burning eyes toward Claire. He spoke her name slowly as if it tasted bitter in his mouth. He ordered her to step into the scanner. Claire did not flinch. She walked forward with calm steps, her boots echoing on the smooth floor. She paused beneath the tall arch, looking at the machine as if it were only another tool. Then she folded her hands behind her back and waited. The scanner hummed, its lights moving across her body. The air shimmered as the machine began its work. Slowly, the images formed around her. The aliens leaned forward, eyes wide, as her history was revealed. The first images were of her broken ribs, healed long ago. Then came the torn muscle fibers, deep cuts across her arms and burns on her legs. The machine showed infections that had almost killed her, blood loss that should have been her end, and a sickness that no other race had ever survived. Yet Claire had lived. Her body carried the memory of every wound, and each scar told the story of her refusal to die. Gasps filled the chamber. Some of the alien leaders whispered in their own languages, while others simply stared in silence. A creature with feathers and long eyes shook its head in disbelief. Another, with a body like stone, rumbled with unease. The council had seen records of survival before, but never like this. This was not one lucky escape. This was a life made of defiance. Claire stood tall as the images faded. Her face was calm, her voice steady as she spoke. She told the council that her scars were not marks of shame, but proof of strength. She said that every human carried scars, even if not on the skin. Some were inside, unseen, but they were all the same. Reminders that humans had fought, struggled, and endured. She did not raise her voice, but the chamber heard her words clearly. The silver-skinned counselor did not like what he heard. He slammed his hand on the table, the sound echoing like thunder. He demanded to know how a fragile race like humanity could endure so much. He accused them of hiding secret technology, forbidden medicine, or even lying to the machine itself. But the scanner was trusted by all. It could not lie. The truth had already been shown. Daniel stepped forward again. He looked at the counselor with calm eyes and said nothing about technology or secrets. Instead, he said only that humans survived because they had no other choice. When death came, they fought. When the world burned, they found water. When the air turned to poison, they learned to breathe through pain. And when war came, they did not run. His voice was plain, without pride, but the words struck hard. The chamber grew restless. Some of the council members began to fear what they were hearing. If humans could not be broken, then they could not be controlled. A small insect-like leader buzzed angrily, demanding that the humans be removed at once. Another, tall and thin with glassy eyes, argued that they must study them further. The voices grew louder, filling the chamber with discord. The humans remained silent, standing side by side. Finally, the council called for another scan. More humans were ordered to step forward. One by one, they walked into the arch. A young man revealed burns from a crashed ship and frostbite from a frozen moon. A woman showed broken bones from falling cities and radiation scars from a dead world. Another man bore the marks of starvation. Yet he had lived long enough to heal and return. Every scan revealed the same truth: survival against all odds. The aliens could not deny what they saw. The machines painted the truth in light for all to witness. No lies, no tricks, only scars that told the story of a species that refused to die. Some of the council members leaned back in their chairs, their fear clear on their faces. Others glared at the humans with anger, as if hating them for their strength. But none could deny the truth. Claire spoke again, her words slow and steady. She told the council that humans were not born stronger, faster, or smarter than other races. They were born fragile, with bodies that could bleed, break, and die easily. But it was their weakness that taught them to fight harder. Pain had been their teacher, and death their shadow. They did not welcome suffering, but they had learned to endure it. Every scar was proof that death had tried and failed. The chamber fell quiet again. The silver-skinned counselor stared at her for a long moment, his burning eyes unblinking. He could not deny the evidence, but he could not accept it either. To admit the truth would be to admit that the council had misjudged an entire species. He clenched his fists, his voice low as he warned the humans that endurance alone would not protect them from the power of the council. Claire did not argue. She simply said that humans did not seek to be unbreakable, but they had become so through necessity. She turned and walked back to her group. The humans stood together once more, their silence speaking louder than any words. Around the chamber, the alien leaders sat in uneasy thought. They had seen the truth with their own eyes. Humanity was fragile in body, but impossible to erase. Every scar was proof of battles survived. Every healed wound was a reminder that pain had failed to claim them. The whispers began again, spreading through the hall. They whispered the same word as before: unkillable. The council had wanted to test humanity. Instead, they had discovered a danger greater than they imagined, and the humans, calm and silent, stood waiting for what would come next. The chamber did not return to calm after the last scan. The council members were no longer whispering. They were arguing loudly, their many voices rising and clashing together. Some demanded that humanity be studied more. Others shouted that humans were a threat, and a few insisted they should be banned from the stars altogether. The air was thick with tension, and the alien guards at the walls tightened their grips on their weapons. The humans, however, stood still. Their faces showed no fear. They had seen worse storms than this. Claire looked around the chamber, her sharp eyes reading the fear that spread among the leaders. She did not need to speak to Daniel or the others. They all understood the danger. Fear could turn into hatred, and hatred could lead to violence. Still, none of them moved. Their strength was not in loud words, but in silence that demanded respect. The silver-skinned counselor finally stood. His tall frame shimmered under the lights as his burning eyes swept across the room. He raised his hand, and slowly the arguments began to fade. One by one, the voices grew quiet until the chamber held only his voice. He declared that humanity was unnatural. He said that scars of such number and depth could not be explained by chance. He accused humans of being a cursed race, shaped by cruelty and chaos. He claimed that the galaxy could not allow such a species to spread unchecked. Some leaders cheered his words. Others shifted uneasily. They had all seen the evidence, and while some feared humans, others admired them. A leader with green scales spoke next, his voice deep and steady. He reminded the council that survival was not a curse but a sign of strength. He said that the human scars did not make them monsters but survivors. If they were to be judged, it should not be with fear but with respect. His words stirred more debate, and the chamber shook with voices once again. Daniel stepped forward. He was not called, but he moved with calm certainty. The alien guards raised their weapons slightly, but Claire gave him a small nod, and he continued. He stood before the council and spoke in a low, clear voice. He told them that humans were not proud of their scars, but they carried them as reminders. Every wound they survived taught them something. Pain taught them to endure. Loss taught them to protect what remained. Fear taught them courage. He said that scars were not marks of monsters, but of lessons learned. The chamber grew still again. Some of the leaders listened closely, their eyes narrowing as they thought. The silver-skinned counselor frowned, his burning eyes glowing brighter. He accused Daniel of speaking lies dressed as wisdom. He demanded that more humans be scanned, that the council see even greater proof of what he called the curse of humanity. So the scans continued. One by one, more humans stepped forward. The machine revealed wounds from wars fought on Earth, from famines survived, from storms and floods that had destroyed whole cities. It showed lungs filled with ash, skin burned by fire, and blood poisoned by sickness. And every time the human still stood alive and calm. The chamber was filled with images of survival. The more the aliens saw, the more their unease grew. One alien leader, small and insect-like, buzzed loudly in anger. She shouted that no species should be able to survive such suffering. She accused humanity of being unnatural, perhaps even created by some hidden force. Another leader, tall and bird-like, argued back. He said that life was cruel, and those who endured it had proven their right to live among the stars. The chamber broke again into chaos. Claire finally stepped forward. She did not raise her voice, but her presence was enough to draw silence. She looked at the silver-skinned counselor directly. Her words were simple. She said that humanity had not chosen its hardships. They had not asked for war, for disease, for famine, or for suffering. But they had faced them, and they had survived. She told the council that every scar was not a mark of shame, but of survival. To erase those scars would be to erase who they were. Her words echoed in the chamber. The leaders were silent, caught between fear and respect. The silver-skinned counselor narrowed his eyes and leaned forward. He told Claire that survival was not enough. He said that endurance alone could make a species dangerous. A species that could not be broken, could one day try to break others. He warned that humanity's strength might one day become the galaxy's nightmare. Daniel stepped to her side. His calm voice joined hers. He said that humans did not survive so they could destroy others. They survived so they could live, love, and build again after every fall. He said that scars were not tools of war, but memories of struggle. He reminded the council that no human came here to threaten anyone. They came only to answer questions with truth. For a long time, no one spoke. The chamber held its breath. Then slowly, the argument started again. Some voices demanded humanity be cast out. Others argued that they should be watched but allowed to remain. A few even said that humanity might become allies, their strength a shield instead of a sword. As the voices rose, the humans remained still. They knew the council would not decide quickly. Fear did not vanish in a moment, and respect did not grow in silence alone, but they also knew the truth had been seen. Every alien in that chamber had witnessed it. The machines had shown what no words could deny. Humanity could not be broken. At last, the silver-skinned counselor struck the table once more, calling the chamber to order. He declared that the decision would not be made today. The council would study the evidence, debate the matter, and call another meeting. Until then, the humans would remain under observation. His words were final, and the chamber obeyed. The guards led the humans out of the chamber, their weapons still held tight. But as the humans walked, they felt the eyes of the leaders following them. Some eyes burned with fear. Others watched with curiosity. A few, just a few, watched with respect. As they returned to their ship, Claire and Daniel exchanged a look. They did not need to speak. They both knew that the council was afraid, and fear could lead to many things. It could lead to hatred and war, but it could also lead to respect. Only time would tell which path the stars would take. For now, humanity had shown the truth. And the truth was simple. They were impossible to kill, and now the whole galaxy knew it. The human ship was silent as it left the great chamber behind. The doors closed with a deep sound, and the arguments of the council faded into echoes. Claire and the others walked in a steady line, guarded on both sides by tall aliens holding strange weapons. Their steps were calm, but each human understood what had just happened. They had shown the council their scars, and the galaxy had seen the truth. Fear was now planted in the hearts of many. As they reached the waiting area, the guards stepped back but did not leave. Their glowing eyes followed every human movement. Claire sat down on a simple metal bench, her hands resting on her knees. Daniel stood close, his watchful eyes scanning the hall. The others stayed nearby, some leaning against the walls, others sitting in silence. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, a young woman named Laura broke the silence. She asked if they had done the right thing by stepping into the scanners. She wondered aloud if showing their scars had only made the council hate them more. Her voice was soft, but the weight of her question filled the hall. Daniel answered first. He told her that truth always carried risk. Lies might bring safety for a moment, but they never lasted. At least now the galaxy knew who humans really were. Claire agreed. She said that scars were not something to hide. They were proof of survival, and survival was the heart of humanity. If the council feared that truth, then so be it. Better to be feared for what they were than to be loved for a lie. Her words gave some comfort to the group, and silence returned again. Back in the chamber, the council continued their arguments long into the night cycle. Some leaders spoke of humans as a danger, a wildfire that could spread across the stars. Others argued that humans could be allies, a shield against greater threats. The silver-skinned counselor, however, pressed his view with cold force. He declared that humanity must be watched closely, perhaps even contained. He would not allow a species so hard to kill to grow unchecked. News of the scans began to spread beyond the chamber. Rumors carried through the station, whispered among alien crews and workers. They spoke of scars that no one should survive, of bodies that carried the memory of death but still stood strong. Some told the stories with awe, others with fear. By the time the humans returned to their quarters, the station was alive with whispers about them. Inside their quarters, the humans gathered around a small table. The air was heavy but not hopeless. Daniel spoke of what might come next. He said that fear could lead the council to act against them, but it could also lead to respect. The challenge would be to show that humans did not seek war, even if they could endure it better than others. Claire nodded and added that patience was their weapon now. They had shown the truth. Now they had to let the truth work on the minds of the council. The next day, the council summoned them again. This time, the chamber was less hostile, but the eyes of the leaders were sharper, filled with new questions. The silver-skinned counselor opened the session. He said the council had studied the records of the scans through the night. He repeated his belief that humanity was dangerous. Then he asked a new question. He wanted to know why humans survived so much when other species would have died. He demanded to know what drove them to keep fighting when hope was gone. Claire stepped forward. Her voice was calm, but her words carried weight. She said that humans did not survive because they were stronger or smarter. They survived because they could not accept the end so easily. She told them that even when the world burned, humans looked for water. Even when hunger struck, they shared what little they had. Even when death was certain, they found a reason to keep moving. She said that what drove them was simple: the will to live and the hope, however small, that tomorrow might be better. The chamber was silent. Many of the leaders listened closely, their eyes softening as they thought of their own worlds. A leader with feathered wings spoke gently. He said that his people had nearly died out long ago, and only by holding on to hope had they survived. He told the council that he saw the same spirit in the humans. His words were a spark of support, and a few others nodded quietly. But the silver-skinned counselor was not moved. He leaned forward, his burning eyes fixed on Claire. He asked her if humans could not be killed, then what would stop them from one day trying to rule the stars? His voice was sharp. His words meant to plant fear in the chamber again. Daniel stepped beside Claire. He answered calmly. He said that humans did not seek to rule others. They had enough battles of their own. He said that their strength came not from a desire to dominate, but from a need to survive. If they fought, it was because they had no choice. If they endured, it was because life gave them no mercy. He said that scars were not crowns but lessons. The words did not please the silver-skinned counselor, but they did stir thought among the others. Some leaned back in their seats, no longer looking at humans with pure fear, but with a kind of reluctant respect. They could see the truth in the calm way the humans spoke, in the silence that followed every answer. It was not pride, not arrogance. It was survival written into every breath. After the session ended, the humans were led back to their ship once again. Along the halls, alien workers stopped to watch them. Some looked away quickly, their eyes full of unease. Others bowed their heads slightly, a small sign of respect. The humans noticed, but they said nothing. They simply walked on. That night, in their quarters, Claire sat by the window looking out at the endless stars. She thought of Earth, of the people waiting for them back home. She thought of the long history that had shaped her species, the wars, the plagues, the hunger, the endless struggles. All of it had written scars into humanity's story. And now those scars had been shown to the stars. Daniel joined her at the window. He told her that no matter what the council decided, they had already changed something. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. Claire agreed. She said that even if the council feared them, even if they tried to contain them, the truth was already out. Humanity had proven that they could not be erased. Far across the station, the counselors met in private. They spoke in hushed voices, each one weighing the risk and the value of humanity. Some argued for war, some for peace, and others for caution. But all of them carried the same thought in their minds. Humanity could not be destroyed easily. They were scarred, but they were alive, and that truth was more powerful than any weapon. As the cycle ended, whispers spread farther and faster through the station. Whispers that the humans were impossible to kill. Whispers that scars told the story of survival, not weakness. Whispers that death itself had tried to claim them many times and failed. The humans rested quietly in their quarters, but they knew the storm was not over. The council had not yet made its choice. The galaxy was watching, and soon every star would know what it meant to face a species that carried scars not as shame, but as proof that they would always rise again. The council had spent many cycles debating the humans' fate. Rumors had spread through the station like fire, carrying tales of scars no other species could survive. Some leaders whispered that humanity should be controlled, contained, or even destroyed. Others argued that they could become allies, a force strong enough to face the galaxy's dangers. The silver-skinned counselor, however, remained stubborn. He refused to see them as anything but a threat, a species that could not be killed and could not be trusted. Claire and the others were called once again to the chamber. This time the tension in the air was heavier. The chamber felt smaller, as if the walls themselves were pressing in. The humans walked steadily, their calmness contrasting sharply with the council's unease. Every step they took echoed through the hall, each footfall a reminder that they had nothing to fear from false judgments. The silver-skinned counselor began the session with a sharp voice. He reminded the humans that their species was a danger. He told them that survival alone could not earn trust. He demanded answers to questions he did not fully ask, about why they endured, why they thrived, and why no weapon, no disease, no famine could erase them. He wanted to scare them, to break their calm. But the humans did not flinch. Claire stepped forward. Her voice was calm, her words clear and simple. She told the council that humans did not seek power for themselves. They survived because they had no choice. They endured because life tested them again and again. Every scar on their bodies and in their minds was proof of lessons learned. She said that humans carried no hatred for the galaxy, only a determination to live. Her words were honest, without pride or arrogance, yet they carried weight. Daniel added his voice beside her. He explained that humans were not unbreakable because they wanted to be. They were unbreakable because they had to be. Pain and death had visited their worlds many times, and each time humans had learned something. They did not seek to dominate, but if attacked, they would fight to survive. That was all. The council listened, some in fear, some in reluctant respect. The other humans were called to step forward one last time. Each human revealed more scars, more proof that their species had survived every possible test. Wounds from battles, sickness, starvation, fire, and cold, all healed, all endured. The council watched, unable to look away. The machines projected the truth clearly. Humanity could not be destroyed easily. And the chamber felt the weight of that truth. Finally, the silver-skinned counselor spoke again. He said that humanity's strength was undeniable, that their resilience was beyond understanding. He warned that a species that could not die could bring chaos if left unchecked. But he also said something he had not admitted before: he feared them. Fear showed in his voice, and the other counselors noticed. The whispers of fear that had started with the first scan now grew louder. Some leaders no longer spoke of containment. Instead, they spoke quietly of caution, respect, and observation. Claire did not respond. She only stood, her calmness a silent statement. She knew the council feared humanity, but she also knew they respected them now. The difference was subtle, but it was real. Fear could be dangerous, but respect was stronger. The humans had proven that they were not monsters, not invincible gods, but survivors. And survival demanded acknowledgement. The council voted on their next step. They decided to allow humanity to return to their ship, but they would monitor them closely. No weapons would be allowed near humans without council oversight, and the humans themselves were warned not to provoke fear. But in the decision there was an unspoken truth. No counselor would forget what they had seen. Every scar, every healed wound, every life survived would remain in their memory. Humanity had left a mark, not just on the machines that scanned them, but on the minds of the galaxy's leaders. Back in their quarters, the humans gathered quietly. The tension of the chamber had left them, but the knowledge of what they had shown still settled deep in their minds. Daniel spoke first. He said that the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. Claire nodded. She said that their task had not been to win favor or approval, only to reveal the truth. The truth was enough. Laura, still young and thoughtful, asked what might come next. Would the council plot against them now that fear had been planted? Daniel shrugged. He said that fear could lead to war, but it could also lead to caution. Claire said that humans would continue to survive, as they always had, and let the galaxy decide its own course. Their survival was proof enough that they could endure anything. In the days that followed, the humans prepared to leave the station. The council had made their decision, and the humans would return to Earth with their truth intact. Along the corridors, the whispers of alien workers followed them. Some watched with awe, some with fear. The humans walked past without reaction, their calmness a quiet statement that they were not concerned with opinions, only reality. As they boarded their ship, Claire looked at the stars. She thought of Earth, of the countless struggles that had shaped their species. Every scar was a memory, every wound a lesson. And now the galaxy had seen that humanity was not a species to be destroyed lightly. They had proven that they were survivors, and survival was the greatest strength of all. The engines hummed to life, and the ship left the station. The council remained behind, the weight of the humans' presence lingering in every chamber. Across the galaxy, stories would spread of the humans who could not be killed. Whispers of scars that told the story of survival, not weakness. Whispers that life had tried to take them many times and failed. Claire and her crew did not celebrate. They did not need to. They had shown the truth, and the truth was already changing the galaxy's understanding. As the stars stretched out before them, Claire said quietly to Daniel that the galaxy had learned something important. He nodded, his eyes reflecting the distant lights. She said that the scars were not marks of pride, but proof that humanity would always rise again. Daniel agreed, saying that every wound carried a lesson, and every lesson made humans stronger. The ship moved steadily toward Earth, leaving the station behind. The humans were not heroes. They were not gods. They were simple people, carrying scars and survival in their bones. But the galaxy had learned a new truth. To face humanity was to face endurance itself, and that truth would shape the stars for cycles to come.